Craig, I know you were calling a game against Virginia Commonwealth last night. Where does today find you?
I'm back home.
Oh.
I'm back in town. The miracle of charter air travel, albeit landing at 2:21 this morning. But, hey, back in town, back in the chilly, rainy conditions of the Lone Star State and ready to rock.
Ready to rock indeed. So when we left one another on Friday night, you and I were talking about how overall, pretty low-key. Not a ton of giant upsets around the state. Everything kind of on Friday had gone ho-hum, and then to me, Saturday came, and it was crazy. Just a lot of big changes. Do you see last week, especially the latter half of last week of the Texas high school football playoffs, as a major shakeup to the brackets?
Yeah, it's weird because it kind of comes back to the more things change, the more they remain the same. And I know you and Max have looked at this, and Matt as well. When you look at the bracket, especially in the higher classifications, we're seeing all those name brands, but yet several of those name brands during the course of the season were not name brands. Euless Trinity was not a name brand during the year, but they are over time. Longview and Lufkin had kind of taken a back seat a little bit to the suburban sprawl of the Dallas-Fort Worth area and the greater Houston area, and yet here they are meeting in the quarterfinals. So even North Shore, which was a state finalist 2 years ago, had been largely forgotten, and here they fought their way back to it. So, some of the name branding that has returned, I think, has caught my attention as much as anything else.
Yeah, I think both those upsets, if you want to call them upsets, I think it's fair to, in Region 2 of the 6A Division 2 bracket, are perfect examples of that. You have Longview taking down previously unbeaten Klein Collins. I know that was Max's pick to win the state championship. Ugh. And then Lufkin taking down Spring Westfield. To me, those are the Blue Bloods kind of rising back up to the top, taking down opponents that I think any other year, if you were to say, oh, hey, Longview and Lufkin made a regional final, you'd say, oh, okay, that's kind of normal. But this year, it does seem a little bit kind of off, a little bit surprising, so to speak.
Yeah, I think so. And then you and I were having a chuckle about this. I even mentioned it to you because of a reference you had made with regard to 17-6A, as I called it, a Benjamin Button-type existence, the curious case of 17-6A with Cy-Fair and Langham Creek, and yet the two, I was talking with Todd Dodge about this today, oh, by the way, the two are 23-1 combined this year. And then, for all of that, look at 13-6A. Cedar Ridge we knew was going to be good. Now, we also thought that your alma mater, Coppell, would be standing toe-to-toe with them, which is exactly what happened right down to a missed extra point in overtime. But Hendrickson, I don't think folks saw them taking out Saxe. However, it also rolls back to something you mentioned, Tep, and I followed along and talked about it as well. We had questions about Saxe's defense all season long, and it finally, came back to bite them in the end. But just the fact that you have a all-13 6A quarterfinal in Region 2 of 6A Division 1 certainly is eye-popping, to say the least.
Absolutely. I want to ask you now, because we're into the Elite Eight. We got 4 regional finals in each bracket. Every team here is pretty much, I don't think there's any accidents here. Everyone here is a really good team. At this point, are there any games, any results across the state that could come about this week that would actually qualify as an upset, or are we now past that threshold where, okay, and pretty much anything can happen, all these teams are relatively evenly matched?
Relative is a relative term. Yeah, relative might be the phraseology there. I'll give you a couple that I think. They have had a wonderful, absolutely landmark, record-setting, never-before experienced season down in these parts at McCallum High School. Mm-hmm. It's Cal Allen week. Mm-hmm. And as great as Max Perez has been, and Mason Bryant, and we had the highlight of the one-handed catch during the course of the year that he had, and then obviously Alex Julian with what he's done in the backfield. But we know Cal Allen eats running backs. And the last time Cal Allen did not contain a running back, his name was Jason McClellan, and Alito beat him in the state final. So it's going to be an extremely difficult task for McCallum against Cal Allen there. Other than, and that's in the upper two. divisions. When you go down, excuse me, a little bit farther, I think we were both kind of surprised to see Kaufman make the Elite Eight. And aside from Stephenville taking out Argyle, Stephenville's had a good year. And we're right back to name branding again. But Liberty Hill they grind up opponents, but if they can't run the ball, they will get beat. It's been hard to run the ball on La Vega, and that happened the first time when they got together. We'll see what happens the next time around.
I think so. We're talking with Craig Way, the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer, here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation, #TF Today. All right, Craig, one of the things you brought up the McCallum and Cal Allen game, and one of the big striking things here is the difference in strength and schedule. Cal Allen has played I think a much more grueling schedule than McCallum, and look, all you can do is beat the teams in front of you, and McCallum has done that every single week, and they've got another very good team in front of him. How much stock do you actually put into strength of schedule this time of year, or is that another thing that you just say, okay, well, they're here, that's all that matters, is that they're here?
No, I think there's something to be said for that. Again, I had Todd Dodge in studio with me this morning talking about their matchup with Steele. And I said, here is Steele. Steele is a name brand. They were state finalists a year ago. They're 9-4, but they were 1-4. They've won 8 in a row. And he said, yeah, by the way, did you see who they played early in the year? They played Judson. They played Lake Travis. They played O'Connor, and they played Smithson Valley. So they were trying to figure it out. And Todd said this, and I think other coaches would echo this. Sometimes during the early portion of the season, you're still trying to figure out some things. And that's why there is that dichotomy amongst coaches over how you schedule your non-district. We'll see that derby pop up again come February with realignment, but how you schedule, because some coaches firmly believe with young teams, or in the case of McCallum, an inner-city ISD school, you need some wins, you need some momentum to get that going. So you get that going, and then maybe it sustains you, and I think it has certainly helped McCallum as they continue to vanquish opponent after opponent. Then you look at some other schools that say, no, we need tough games in non-district, whether we win them or lose them, to try to make us better. I think Temple is an example of that with what they've done. So, there's two schools of thought on that. I don't think either one is incorrect. It's just how it best suits your program.
The other question I want to ask you about how much stock you put into it as far as looking ahead is concerned is with margins. That one of the, on Friday night, we were talking a little bit about how that none of the results, not none, but only a handful of the results were particularly surprising to us, but some of the margins were particularly surprising. The one that springs to mind for me is Katy taking Atascocita to the woodshed. That was, to me, the result from a margin perspective. Am I crazy in thinking that is a really big statement win that speaks louder than just beating a good Atascocita team, rather, that this is something that we should be paying attention to? How much do you put into maybe, let's say, the style points as we get deeper in the playoffs?
In their case, a lot. I think it's easier to say that than it is easier to say Atascocita. It's difficult to imagine it. I didn't think it would be that kind of a margin. Did I think Katy would probably win the game? Yes. But I did say last week on my program, I said on yours, that if Katy were to get pushed, or if the prospect of an upset might exist, it might happen that way. No ifs, ands, or buts. They blew them out, and Katy is the Katy that we have figured that they would be, and they've just been tremendous. 9 of their wins have been with scoring over 30 points this year. They have 4 shutouts this year. North Shore is going to have a tough time with them, even as North Shore is a playoff season team and has really turned it on in the second half of the season. They're going to have a tough time because Katy is, after all, who they are, and it's going to be interesting also. The dynamics involved here with some of these playoff matchups here at SAP. For example, the winner, and we always hear these interesting stories about how sites are determined. And Todd Dodge was telling me the winner of the Westlake Steel game will play the winner of Cy-Fair and Langham Creek, no matter what the combination is. They will play at NRG next week because he had Scott Lenhoff, the AD, there for Steel, call the flip or the zip code derby on behalf of both schools, and they did the same thing with the Cy-Fair ISD, obviously, and they lost out on that. So whoever wins will travel to NRG. Conversely, the other side happened that way, and Lake Travis and O'Connor against the Katy North Shore winner, and the winner of that is going to be at Alamo Stadium next week. It'll be in the rock pile, regardless of the winners. So the dynamics and machinations that go on with some of these things are still fascinating to observe.
The other question, we're talking with Craig Way, the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer, as we do every Wednesday here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation, hashtag TFToday. Craigers, the only other question I have is, what are you going to be doing Friday night? You and I have been doing Scoreboard on High School Scoreboard Live on Fox Sports Southwest for the past 14 weeks. And now the Scoreboard, if you don't know, is moving to Saturday at 11 o'clock, which means that I have a Friday night open. I'm going to use the Friday night to go with Max out to Iowa Park for Munster and Albany, and I'm very excited about that. Craig Way, what are you doing with what I guess is your first Friday night relatively free for the past 4 months?
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? I gave it a lot of thought, and I said, I've got to be somewhere. I've got to be at the game, right? I've got to do something like that. And then the other thing I thought about is, which games am I calling for Fox Southwest for the state championship? Some would argue that the better question is, which games am I not calling, because I'm doing 8 of the 12. But
good Lord,
of those 8, it's both 6-man championships, both 6A championships, and then the Division I games in the other classifications. So 5AD1, 4AD1, 3AD1, and 2AD1. So in my own way of kind of scouting it out, I said, I probably should go see a game in one of those divisions that I could be seeing in the state championship round. And the closest one like that, and it is certainly one of the most compelling, and, even I would have been right there with you with Albany Munster, except that's a D2 game, but I'll lick my chops and get ready for Mason and Refugio in the Alamo Dome on Friday night. So that's me.
That's not a bad move. I'll tell you, that's not a bad move.
And by the way, as a bonus, Crawford and Mark tomorrow night at Waco ISD.
Oh, I'll see you there. Me, Matt Stepp, and Brady Keene will all be there with you.
So
there we go.
It's going to be a party.
Yeah.
We're down to the nitty-gritty of the Texas High School football playoffs, and, of course, you will hear all of it called on Fox Sports Southwest. Most of the state championships called by the great Craig Way, the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer. Follow him on Twitter at CraigWay1. Craig, appreciate your time as always, my friend. And I guess, I don't know what I'm going to do on Friday night. I guess I'll just, wait until Saturday to see you.
Yeah, we'll look forward to that. We'll have some fun one way or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. There he goes, Craig Way, the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer. Joins us every Wednesday here on Texas Football Today. He's kind of where I'm at, where McCallum over Cal Allen is probably the only real stunner. That would be the game. I don't want to say stunner because McCallum's obviously a very good team because they're here, but that would be, to me, an upset. I do think that if New Diana were to beat Jacksboro, or I'm sorry, not Jack, they did beat Jacksboro.
Yeah, they beat Jacksboro.
If they were to beat Gunner, the defending state champs, that would probably qualify as an upset.
Richland over Alito.
Richland over
definitely
Alito.
Be an upset. Yeah.
I would even say Trinity over Allen would be an upset, even though Trinity's playing really well. I would say that would be an upset. So we're deep in the nitty-gritty of the Texas High School football playoffs. You can find it all at texasfootball.com.